Hi, the last book I'm going to talk about is called Shooting Kabul by N.H. Sensei. This story starts in Afghanistan, the country of Afghanistan, which you guys might have heard a lot about on the news lately. But it actually happens, the story originates in the late 1990s, and it centers around a family of five, a mother and a father, and three kids. And the father is a university professor who grew up in Afghanistan and then moved with his family to the United States. And he is the professor, I can't remember of what, but he became very, very well known. And in the mid 1990s, the Afghan government approached him and asked him to come back to Afghanistan. Now, Afghanistan was being rebuilt. Many times it was being rebuilt. And the government at that time wanted this man to come back to Afghanistan, be part of the university, and kind of bring some respect to the country. So he agreed to move there with his two daughters and his a middle son whose name is Fadi, F-A-D-I, and they moved to Afghanistan. But then things changed in Afghanistan. The country became much more conservative. All of a sudden, his two daughters were not allowed to be educated, and he and his wife really valued education a lot. And so he and his wife decided they really needed to leave Afghanistan and go back to the United States because they wanted their children to grow up someplace else. Well, when he requested permission from the Afghan government to leave, they said, no, you may not leave. You have to stay here. Well, what are they going to do? And so the parents made a decision. They decided that they would leave Afghanistan illegally, which meant they had to kind of go out in the middle of the night, like, and not be detected. And they were going to take the kids. So they had a family conference and they had all three kids together. And they said, look, we're going to do this and it's going to be dangerous. You cannot tell anybody what is going to happen to us, that we are going to be leaving this apartment and trying to escape Afghanistan. Because if we are found out, your mother and I will be thrown in jail. I may be executed. You kids you may not even go to relatives. You may be thrown in orphanages, but separated. So you can't tell anybody. And we're not going to tell you when it's going to happen, but we'll wake you up sometime in the middle of the night. In the meantime, you can prepare by taking one small backpack and putting in it what you want to take with you when we decide to leave. And so the kids all go, okay, and they understood. They had to really do what their parents said. So the littlest girl, Miriam, what she wanted to take was her Barbie doll. So that's what she put in there. And Fadi and his older sister, they put in different things that perhaps were more age appropriate. But one night they were asleep and their parents came in and said, it is time. Remember, be very quiet. Do not make noise on the stairs. The neighbor could report us. We must be very quiet and we're going to leave now. They left very quietly. They walked down the stairs. They went out to the streets, and then they wandered through the streets of Afghanistan, of Kabul, which is the capital of Afghanistan. And there's a lot of places that were war-torn. There were buildings that had been damaged in bombings and stuff. And they finally got to a very isolated part of town, and they were kind of hiding behind a broken down fence. And the father said, just wait here, and I will tell you. I'll give you the sign as to when we have to get on the vehicle that's going to take us. And so they waited. And an old army truck comes down the middle of the street, kind of chugging, and Fadi starts kind of get ready. And his father goes, no, not yet. It's not time. And the truck kind of goes down the end of the street and makes a turn and comes back about 5 minutes later and stops. And the father goes, it's time. Run for the truck. And so Fadi's got his younger sister by the hand, and he's pulling her along, and the mother and father are getting up there, and the father's helping the mother and the older sister on, and he's going, Fadi, hurry up, hurry up. And the people are coming out from all over the place. It is crowded. And so Fadi is yanking his sister through this crowd to get up to this truck. And just when they get to the truck, she drops her Barbie doll. And she drops his hand, and she bends down to pick up the Barbie doll. She no longer has Fadi's hand. Simultaneously, there is gunfire in the background, and Faudi's father has his hand, and he thinks that Faudi's still holding on to his sister, but he's not, because his sister's dropped it. And the truck driver goes, I'm out of here. And he guns the engine, and Faudi is yanked up into the truck, but Miriam is left in the crowd. And their parents are yelling, stop, stop, our daughter's there. And the driver is going, I can't stop. The army will catch us. We will be executed. I cannot stop. And so he just drives through the night, and they finally get to a refugee camp that is on the border across from Afghanistan. And they get there, and the parents, the father's pretty well known, so he contacts the UN and other places to see whether they can locate Miriam, who's been left in the streets of Kabul, but nobody finds her. So they can only wait there so long, and they have to then go to the place that the father had arranged for them to go to. So where they're traveled to is a town called Fremont in the state of California. Some of you may know that we have a little Kabul here in Fremont, and we have a very large Afghan population. And a lot of people came here in the late 1990s. And this is a story about Fadi's family comes to Fremont. Now, they are all still racked with guilt, like the father. Why didn't I have her hand? Fadi, why didn't I grab her? But they can't find Miriam. And so what starts driving Fadi's life is to try to figure out, how can I find Miriam in a country that is isolated? And he may just find a way. You have to read Shooting Kabul by N.H. Sensei. It is a really thrilling book. It takes place in a town and the events actually in part are based on something that the author's husband experienced. Now, they never left a daughter behind in Afghanistan, but he and his family escaped from Afghanistan in the 1990s in a very similar fashion. And he, by the way, now is a law professor at Santa Clara University, just down the road from us. And his wife, N.H. Sensei, who also writes fantasy books, they also live in the area. So read Shooting Kabul. It is truly a good book. And the title, I'll just give you a tiny hint, may give you a part of the puzzle as to how Fadi he was doing to try to find his sister Miriam. You won't regret reading this book.